Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope everybody is having a great day. We continue to see the market melt up rally that is kicking us off for Monday's trading session. As we see the market that is approaching and is basically at all-time highs, the big question is, when is this pullback going to happen? Because we're continuing to see this rally that is pushing higher and higher. We'll be talking about some huge announcements that were made today regarding very large investments. If anybody saw regarding Nvidia and OpenAI, we'll be talking about that. Talking about Palantir's technical pattern, where it's sitting at in terms of price action right now. And we'll also be covering some other stocks experiencing some decent amount of volatility, actually in the red today, BMNR, which we've been talking about recently on the channel, and giving you guys all the details that you need to know. And of course, talking about some of the other big ones on the watch list and ones that we're interested in. So if you're a new or a returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and let's pop it up on the screen here. Hope everybody had a good start to the week. Palantir closes one right here at 179.33, down about 2%, including in the overnight session. Palantir's down to about 178.77, down about 56 cents right now in the overnight session. Really not basically caring that much or having any fear, uncertainty that strikes, or any emotional type of response from this 2% drop here. Palantir has had a good reversal since this kind of little profit-taking cascade that we saw after the announcement of those interest rates. And we've seen this bottom here at that 164, this local bottom that is pushed here to this local high on 184. I think is a pretty good reversal. Seeing this local top right here at this 184 and now just kind of settling down. It'll be interesting now to see if Palantir is just going to consolidate in the 180s, because after Palantir does make a move, it likes to trade sideways and see some choppiness for a while before making another big type of move. And depending on what that catalyst is going to be, I think it's not like a matter, hey, of if there's going to be another big catalyst. It's like more like when is there going to be a big catalyst, because we know that Palantir is just establishing these multitude of contracts, especially with the recent $1 billion one that we saw in the UK. That was a huge one that helped with this last trade here in this last swing. So Palantir holding here at 180. I think $200 is still on the table for the end of the year. I still think that's a possibility. Looking here just in terms of this cool chart that I saw on X, Palantir's institutional ownership is drawing here, this strong uptrend since we saw in 2020 and 2021, showing the strengthening appearance. And I would agree here, by the way, as someone, in terms of the steadily growth that we're seeing in terms of institutionals that are coming in. And one thing I really like about, Palantir, remember, is that retail basically beat Wall Street to the cusp and the breakout and the whole evolution of Palantir when it had its kind of moment. So in terms of that, that's why I love Palantir, is because retail is actually able to beat Wall Street to the punch here. And you can see institutional ownership that is still continuing to catch up, as you can see here, even in 2024 and 2025, try to catch up at a rapid pace. Now, let's talk about one of the big things that happened in the market today, which is helping to continue this melt up rally. Currently, S&P 500 is basically at 6,700 now in terms of the S&P 500 index. And that's quite crazy. And the thing is, it's like, with the announcements that we're seeing and what we're seeing here, it's like, when is this thing going to pull back? I'm getting to the point personally where, there's a lot of frothiness. We're seeing a lot of optimism in the market, but it's like, okay, whenever a pullback happens, I guess we'll just embrace that pullback and be able to dollar cost average, especially into like long-term portfolios and stuff like that, not being too over leveraged at any time, since we are at these kind of market caps. That's the way that I'm approaching this. But, I can't be sitting on the sidelines, especially with the amount of investment that is coming into the AI industry in this revolution. I think this is truly a groundbreaking momentum that we're going to see over the next decade. Amit, a big content creator, posted this on X here saying that, Nvidia is investing $100 billion. I mean, if you are going to just kind of brush your shoulders off and think this is a market top, we're seeing these huge numbers. And in terms of this whole, is AI in a bubble? I kind of want, and I saw a really good post about this, I kind of want Wall Street to keep thinking that AI is in a bubble. Because if we're still early ahead of the curve and they keep calling this the top in the bubble, and market sentiment continues to settle in, then hey, that's just more return on investment for people that with strong conviction into this industry. So Nvidia here investing $100 billion into OpenAI, and it's providing 10 gigawatts of computing capacity with data centers Jensen right here with a direct quote saying this is the biggest infrastructure project in history. Computing demand is going through the roof for OpenAI. Every person he knows uses ChatGPT. And if you take this down the pipeline, this quote right here, Jensen at the top of the market is saying this, that computing demand is going through the roof, looking at all the stocks that are positively affected by computing demand. And things that we've talked about, like CoreWeave, looking at Nebius. I mean, Nebius has had some amazing amount of momentum. Nebius right now is sitting right here, if we can find it on the dang watch list. Where are we? At 106 right here. So Nebius has now broken out over this $100 resistance point that we've seen. This was just at $50 not that long ago, and people are calling for $150 end of the year target for Nebius. So the fact here is that you have a lot of investment that's coming into the market. Right now, Nvidia sitting near these kind of all-time high levels at 182. This also has $200 on the table, I think, as a year-end possible target. If the macroeconomic environment and the structure looks good for these Mag 7 stocks, this is going to help continue to push the market up. And of course, yes, we could have a pullback at any moment, like I mentioned before, and that probably would be healthy for the market, even a 4 to 5% pullback. But right now, where we sit at this S&P 500 of 6,700 in terms of the index, a 4 to 5% pullback is only at it's still at 6,300 right now. A 10% pullback is still above 6,000 in terms of the index, which shows you that any kind of dip here is not actually, I think, going to be as dramatic as personally I would be expecting. And I think the market probably wouldn't be basically too scared of a pullback that much unless we entered into some whole different type of situation. With this announcement with Nvidia right here talking about this, delivering up this $100 billion, we saw Nvidia pop about 3.9%. You're also seeing other optimism coming into things like Oracle announcing that, has new promotions here to two co-CEOs. Apple getting some boost on enthusiasm regarding new iPhone sales. I don't know. I'm not a big Apple fan, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But what's up with the iPhone 17? What's different about it? I mean, because it looks like not going to start the debate on here on Android versus Apple. But anyway, with enthusiasm right there, I mean, it's good for the broader market, up about 4% on that boost right there. And in terms of this, you're seeing this growing risk for government shutdown is limiting the market gains. I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think Trump is going to personally let the government do a shutdown. I don't know if he's going to want that on his actual, radar or on his basically documentation. But what you see here, Russell 2000, small caps doing very well. The small caps, of course, this is because we have the announcement of the interest rates. We got 2 more priced in for the rest of the year, and we got like another 5 over the whole next year going into 2026. So that's where you're seeing a lot of bullishness coming into the small caps right there. Looking at the SPY, basically futures at $666 right now. It's kind of a creepy number, and 84 cents at zero. So they're really not moving. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I mean, right now, in terms of these kind of price discovery, melt up rally moments, I don't really have a big opinion on where this market's going in terms of resistance. Yeah, we'll probably get resistance at that 6,700, but if that blows through, then I don't know. So any pullbacks here, I guess we'll just see basically at the $100 levels, at those psychological levels, possibly testing support though there at those trend lines. I'm not going to get too technical on the actual index. I like following individual stocks more than that. But big update on BMNR. Let's talk about that right here, because this stock is actually flipping the other way, comes down about 10% today, which is not necessarily a horrible thing. BMNR has had an amazing local bottom that we saw here at the 42s, even anything below 50. Saw a great swing up here to 63, and this is kind of where we saw some previous resistance here, kind of at the $63, $70 zone. BMNR has about a 10% pullback today. Now, there's going to be a lot of volatility in the stock to about this $55 area. Reason being, another big thing from Amit, he's on the ball with these things. Congrats to the guy. Basically talking about here, the 2 major updates is the company now has about 2.4 million Ethereum, reaching 2% of their 5% acquisition goal. Tom Lee, on top of BMNR, with BMNR, wants to reach 5% acquisition of the current supply of Ethereum. They are the 24th most traded stock and have a total of about 11.4 billion between cash, ETH, and investment. What they basically announced today, which I think just brought some volatility, we're also seeing actual dip in crypto compared to the market. Bitmine here announced a securities purchase agreement to sell 5.2 million shares of common stock at $70 per share. This was like a direct offering, but this is a 14% premium that we saw to Friday's close, and warrants to purchase up to 10.4 million shares at $87.50 each, expecting to raise approximately $365 million from the sale. That's from the 5.2 million shares at 70 right here from the stock offering, and potentially up to 1.28 billion, including warrant exercises. So with that, I think this is overall bullish right here, and I think people were interpreting it a little more wrong. This is more likely because Ethereum has been taking a hit. We've seen Bitcoin that's actually pulled back a little bit. Bitcoin right here at 112. We've seen a little bit, losing this 115 support area, coming down here to about 112. Ethereum, on the other hand, has dropped down to about 42, 4100. It'll be interesting to see because there is a decent amount of support between 3900 and 4100. So we'll see if that support there is flipped. If there's a bottom there, then that could signal a bottom for BMNR right here. We'll keep that on our radar. Personally, we'll be keeping my eyes closely to see if this finds a bottom, because I still think this has room to go higher personally, especially if Ethereum does have a good reversal. Timing that out for the end of their rally. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.